Yo, it's Jang here again from ultimaterc.com and the URC forums with another after run follow-up commentary, summary, discussion, soliloquy, whatever video. Just giving a little bit of feedback on my most recent run with the Traxxas Summit, which is completely stock, except for ride height adjustments, I think. And I am doing this directly after, I'm doing this video right here that you're watching right now, right after I did a run with this vehicle. So this really goes with that previous video. It doesn't make any sense to really watch it by itself if you haven't seen the run. This thing has been in storage for far too long, for months and months. Basically, I think I've run it once or twice since I did my review in 2012. And was it even 2012 or was it 2011? I think it was 2012. I'm hoping it was 2012. Wow, time really flies when you get old. But I finally had a good reason to take it out of storage and to put it to use, because I was working on my e-Revo, which I wanted to set up my e-Revo to be a little bit more Summit-like and kind of access the basher inside of the e-Revo, the rough terrain basher inside of the e-Revo, since it's basically the same thing as this, except this has the nice lockers, the remote lockers in it. E-Revo has a brushless system in it, but I've put the long travel rockers on it, just like the Summit has, which are included with the e-Revo. And then I put big tires on it. They're aftermarket tires, the Proline trenchers. They're a little bit closer in size to the ones that come with the Summit. These are much huger than the ones that come with the e-Revo normally. So I just got the e-Revo closer to this, and I wanted to compare. I put all that into making the e-Revo more like a Summit. It's good to go back to kind of the benchmark, the original, one of the truly great RCs of all time, in my opinion, the Summit itself. And the reason that I was trying to get the e-Revo closer to this is I wanted to see if I could access some of that same terrain capability with the brushless system, with a lower center of gravity setup without the huge heavy body on top, and kind of get in between the two. So I took this out to the exact same place, ran it right after the e-Revo to see how this did and just kind of refresh my feelings about the Summit. And biggest thing that stood out is that I forgot how slow this thing is. But once I got past the fact that this was way slower, I started driving it around and realized that, wow, I'm not having to flip this thing over very often. It's able to get over terrain, and it looks much better to me, to my eyes, it looked much better going over really rough terrain than the e-Revo did. Even when I wasn't using the lockers, when I was just using it just as is, like I said, it's almost completely stock. I think I may have changed out the springs at one point, but other than that, ride height adjustment, I think that's it. It just, it was going slow enough that it was able to soak up the terrain and stay more right side up. It looked and felt more realistic to me. Actually, I felt like it was a little bit more enjoyable experience to drive this over the rough stuff than the e-Revo, mostly on account of the speed, that this just doesn't have the speed of the e-Revo. And that was a very unexpected result for me. I thought that I was, in my mind, I was kind of thinking apples to apples, or maybe apples to pears, something related, because you take this off and you see e-Revo there. You saw my last videos with the e-Revo. You're seeing the same thing here. It's not that big of a difference, but the difference in speed, the difference in power makes up. It's such a dramatic change. And even though I've been running the faster vehicles, and even though I've got my e-Revo brushless edition up to the point where it's handling rough terrain way better than it did in stock form, thanks to the suspension being set up more like this and having the bigger tires also, still the Summit for me came out on top. Once I started accessing the remote locking diffs for going up hills, especially the setting where you lock just the front diff and leave the rear diff open. That was the most interesting to me. And it just gives you so much more authority to stay straight when you're going on tricky terrain. That's especially if it's going uphill and you're trying to keep the nose pointed upwards and trying to keep it from diffing out and slipping down to the side, like these vehicles want to do if the diff is open. That just made it kind of unfair once it started accessing the locking. Definitely more control going on slippery stuff. Didn't so much like it this time around in low gear. You can go pretty darn slow with this thing with the brush motor in second gear. The nice thing about being in second gear is you can quickly get up some wheel speed. So if you do start to get stuck a little bit, and you're going fast enough that you don't want to change your locking setup, you don't want to come to a stop to do that. If you're in second gear, you can give it some throttle, and it will oftentimes power through or power over things. So the first gear thing, it's novel. It's interesting. It's cool for folks who have never played with a solid axle crawler to play around with the idea of crawling in general, and just doing really super slow stuff. But for crawling, I think a solid axle vehicle is still far superior, especially if you go comparing to this, go up to an 1/8 scale size, supersized crawler setup, even something pretty cheap with good tires on it, with solid axles, no diffs, just lockers. It's going to completely outclass this for crawling. So I think second gear is the place for this one, and I think that with a locked front diff is great. I think that even running just really thick oil in the front diff so you don't have to lock it works out really well. Love the look of the thing still, especially if you jack up the rear a little bit, stiffen up the rear springs so that it doesn't squat. The biggest thing that I didn't like about the Summit early on, before I ever had one, was that every video that I saw of one driving around, it looked like this. It was completely just squashed to the ground in the back, and the front was almost completely unloaded. It looked terrible. But you fix that, get it to the point where it's staying mostly upright, and it actually looks good going around on terrain. And I still enjoy this thing. I haven't used it in a long time. Like I said, the top speed surprised me a little bit on the low on how slow it was compared to the brushless vehicles that I had just run, but quickly got used to it and just got back into the feel of it. And Summit is Summit. There is nothing like it. There really is nothing like it. And I'm still really happy with it. And this is another one where I'm happy to the point that I feel like I've accomplished everything that I could want to accomplish with this vehicle. And with the way that my life goes, I need to continue to cycle through things and move on to other vehicles. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to put it back up on the shelf for now, but it's going to get passed on to another RCer at some point. And I think this will probably be the last time that you see this on video from me, because I am done with it. Not in a bad way though, in a good way. Summit has worked out really well for me. I'm really happy to have finally got one against all of my preconceived notions and my initial disdain for the thing based on other people's and the official driving videos also of it in completely stock form. You just get it to not squat and then learn how to drive it and learn what it is good for. And it makes a great, it's almost like the my buddy of RCs. This is like a companion RC is the way that this one works out. Is kind of how I feel about it. It's something that you take with you, and then you do stuff with it, or it does stuff with you, compared to other RCs where it's more of I take one out and then I drive it, but it's like me controlling it. There's more of a connection, I feel, with the Summit, and part of that is because it's not crazy super fast. Part of that is because it has a certain personality to the look of it, and it does its job. You know, it does what it is intended to what it is intended to do well. It's almost like it has more experience doing what it does than I do, if that makes any sense. I don't know. There's something special about a Summit. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for following along. I've had this thing for a long time. Had a lot of fun with it before, and then after the review, kind of just put it up on blocks for far too long. Brought it back out, confirmed everything that I felt about it on the good side before, and learned nothing new bad about it. It's still good old Summit. So that's it for this one. That's it for me and this one, and I will be moving on to more stuff that's backlogged in the queue. So stay tuned for more. That'll be coming real soon. Bye for now.